what I've seen over the years is that second day always gets a lot more chippier, right? You go back and you watch the film and you're like, I didn't even see that. And then the next day something breaks out. We didn't want that to happen. Look, we're out here as football players, not fighters, and that's the message to the team.
Do you have a plan in place if there are fights? Have you and Nick worked that out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, you don't fight in a real game. When you fight in a real game, you get fined, you get kicked out. It's the same thing here. And look, my message to the players, if you get in a fight out here, if you're a starter, you're going to play the whole preseason game. If you're not a starter, you won't play at all. And so that's kind of my mindset with that.
The Jerod Mayo rules for fighting during joint practice.
Good one.
If you're a starter, you play all of the preseason game, and if you're a backup, you don't get to play at all, which means you don't get to help make your case to stay on the team. Now, I got a couple of points on that. First of all, he was explaining how fights can happen on that second day of joint practices, and he's absolutely right. The fights are far more likely on day 2, but it's not because the players go back and look at film and say, oh, I'm going to get that guy. They happen because the coaches
usually
go after the players.
And go, are you going to let this guy just whoop your ass tomorrow
again? Are you just
again?
going to take that?
Yeah,
What's
exactly.
the world coming to?
Right.
So he was very smart. He didn't present it as it's on us to maybe not ride these guys for getting beat during day 1. But that's what it is. It's the coaches wearing these guys out, so the guy goes back the next day and he's looking to settle the score.
Yeah, it's all of that. It's the coach. It's sitting there watching the practice film with your teammates around you, and they're all looking and going, you got your ass whooped yesterday. So the player does personally start to go, damn, people were looking at me here, and they know I'm getting worked over in practice today. So he comes out chippier too, let alone the coach was on his butt. Yeah, so it's all of it. There's no doubt. I'm interested, and when I first saw this quote, I went, well, damn, starters might actually start a fight because they're going to go, damn, I don't want to play in the preseason game anyways, but that was the right approach.
No.
Starters,
the starters play the game.
Play, exactly. That's the
don't.
right approach because, a good starter is going to go, well, damn, maybe I'll throw a punch. I don't want to play in preseason game number 2 anyways. So, right approach, but I'll say this to you. I don't know how you feel about it. But I'm starting to wonder whether these joint practices really are worth what we thought they were worth at when they first started. Right? The Patriots were the first team to start this, and Bill Belichick, quality of work, can control things a little bit that way, right? Hey, we don't have to play now in the preseason game and take people to the ground and risk that injury and all that. But it does feel like we're getting at a point here with teams and way certain practices go where I'd go, oh, I don't know. I'd rather my guys go out there and tackle rather than being in 9 brawls in 2 days like the Lions and the Giants or whatever else. Is that better for your team? I don't know. And I think that's where there's going to be some reevaluating with these joint practices as we go forward here. I do.
But Chris, the development from last week during the final week of our hiatus when the Lions and Giants had fights both days of their joint practices and the league came in and fined them $200,000 each. The league is finally, as it should have been doing all along.
Yeah, agreed.
The league is exercising jurisdiction because this is the future. As the preseason goes from 3 games to, within the next 5 years, 2 games, because the regular season is going to go to 18, to eventually 1 preseason game, to eventually 0, this is the way you're going to get teams ready. I guarantee you, at some point, and I hope I live long enough to see it, there's going to be 20 regular season games and no preseason games. Because the same logic that the commissioner applies to swapping out preseason for regular season now applies all the way until you get down to no preseason games. They make so much more money off of regular season games. Preseason games are meaningless. Joint practices become the way to get your team ready. So I disagree. I think they're refining and understanding.
Maybe you're right.
If we're going to do this, we got to get rid of the fights.
Maybe you're right. All I'm saying is something needs to be done. Because if I was coaching a team and doing that stuff, I'd go, I don't even know. Now, is it worth it?
Let me say.
I mean, it was a shit show. The Giants and the Lions. It was, and that's where social media, I think, also plays a part in this. Like what you said, not only the coaches, the player, the social media. One day, Malik Neighbors is burning the DBs. Now the DBs had to watch it in social media. Now they're pissed off. They're getting in his face. They're talking to him. Blah blah blah. The next day, because they want to get some good plays on social media for them. Now it all plays into it. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe you're right. As long as the NFL continues to enforce jurisdiction over this, I think that's very important.
But I do have to throw the challenge flag on the idea that if a starter gets in a fight during a joint practice, he's going to play all the preseason game.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that for
No,
a
that's
second.
not
You're not going to put
happening.
your guy at risk. And I saw yesterday on Twitter, and I can't remember who said this, but, Jerod Mayo got this idea from Sean McVay. Sean McVay's been doing this. It works well for Sean McVay. Yeah, bullshit. You think Aaron Donald played all of the preseason game, the game after he attacked someone with his helmet? Remember that 2 years
Yes,
ago?
right.
And if the helmet was flattened against a Bengals player's head, Aaron Donald got a gentle talking to. You're not going to discipline your star players who get into fights during joint practices, which is all the more reason for the NFL to come in and find teams and ultimately take away draft picks if they have to. So, yes, backups, you don't get to play in the preseason game. That is bad because you're trying to earn a roster spot. Starters, they're not going to play him the whole preseason game if they get in a fight during a joint practice. They'll find a way to excuse it, which is why the NFL, as you're saying, needs to do something to make these things useful without crossing the line into fight.
Yeah, hopefully. It's the right thing to do. And again, too, with these practices and these, the joint practices especially, there's big crowds there. There's tons of kids watching and all that. And it goes back to what we talk about with taunting and the examples we want to set forth to the younger generation coming up and all of that. So, yeah, the league's got to get involved in that. It's too big. The business is too big. There's too many camera lenses, all of it. And, of course, these fights could end up ruining a guy's career, something along that. And that's when you're going to start to go. Then they'll have to deal with us going, well, why weren't you looking over this NFL?
We had
What are
no
you
idea.
doing?
We
Right.
had no idea this could happen.
So it's
and that's
good.
what we had predicted.
Yeah.
That's what we had predicted. At one of these fights, somebody's going to get seriously hurt, and they're going to be like, oh, well, we had no idea this could happen. We need to do something about it. So do something about it before, because you see the clouds gathering. Take action before the storm lets loose. Let's take a break. When we return, Micah Parsons isn't afraid to talk, and we love that. But is he talking about a subject that maybe he shouldn't be talking about? We'll discuss that next here on PFT Live. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.